Today I'm going to be starting a new series called Edit Revamp, where I take my old edits and I revamp them, self-explanatory. But essentially I'm going to take my old designs and I'm going to remake them with my current skill set and my current knowledge and see what we can improve on those old designs. I've actually done this before 2 other times for other designs that I've made, but this was before the YouTube channel, and so I thought this would make for a good series for the channel, and I enjoy doing those other 2, so why not make it into a series for you guys to also watch along to see what my old edits used to look like and how I'm going to make them even better or considerably better depending on the edit. Now the edit we're going to be using to kick off this series is this Mahrez edit. Now this was from 2020. This is still from mobile era. All of my edit remakes I've done are from my mobile era because I think they have the biggest scope for improvement. Now this is actually one of my favorite edits that I made on mobile. I actually really like this one. Of course there's a lot of things we can improve on with my current knowledge and skill set, so let's go through and quickly analyze what I like and what I think could be improved in this. So first of all, I like the whole stormy sky, stormy mountain kind of vibe going on. This is something that I used to spam in my mobile days just because it made blending so much easier. Obviously now I can blend with a bunch of different colors and I can have red skies and make it look accurate and whatever else. But in those mobile days, things were different. And so blending was a lot easier if I just used a stormy sky. I like the glow that's kind of going on. It's not really a targeted glow coming from a light source. It's just an overall glowy kind of feel within the whole image. These shadows, these floor shadows, considering they're mobile, it's actually not bad at all, to be honest. Especially in mobile days where all we had to use was this stock image of a shadow and it was really hard to manipulate shadows back then. I like the color tones that's going on. It's kind of reminding me of a more gray version of my Rinders edit and how the sky looked in that. I don't like how I cut these this background image out. You can see these edges are very jaggedy. You can see it's like woo. It's not really smooth kind of mountain going on. But I think a bit of blur and a bit of haze will kind of fix that. But no, I actually really like this piece. It's definitely one of the better ones from my mobile era. So with this revamp, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and stick to the original as much as I possibly can without adding too much unnecessary extra stuff and changing things drastically, because I want this to be more of a show of how my execution has improved rather than how my concepts have improved, if that makes sense. So I'll mainly be looking at lighting, which there is a little bit of. There's definitely rim lighting, shadows, blending also in terms of the background, but also blending the subject into the background, and all of those kind of technical things, rather than just adding a bunch of stuff in and being like, oh, this edit is more complex because I have more mountains in the background. And to keep it even more accurate, I'm going to use the same resolution, which for some reason I used a square, and I even have the exact same image that I used right here, straight from Footy Renders, if you remember the Footy Renders era. What time to be alive. So first let's put the ground in. I think I'm going to use this as the kind of base and then put some mountains in the back. I also have these other kind of mountainous images in the back that I can put in to try and recreate what we kind of had here. And I know I said I wasn't going to be adding too much, but I think I'll add a few of these mountains in the background just to make the background have a bit more depth. Now I'll make sure to get onto the blending later, but I think the next thing that we should probably get in is the stormy sky. So just like we did for the Rinders edit, I'm going to take a few stormy sky images, compile them together and try and make the best possible one, and the one that reflects this image the most. Because as you can see, there's kind of an opening in the clouds here, which is where mainly the light is coming from. So I'm going to try and see if I can do that as well. Alright, slight veto power has been established. I think we might have the light source coming from here as opposed to directly behind, just because I think it would make for a more interesting lighting kind of scenario than just having it be just from behind and be rim lighting. Basically, I think it will look cooler, so I'm gonna do it. But everything else is essentially gonna be the same or similar enough. Now we should probably start blending some of this together, especially the ground. This ground looks horrible right now. First thing I'm gonna do to just straight away match everything somewhat is I'm just going to throw a color lookup on top of everything, and it's going to be one of the night ones. It's probably this one. And yeah, that basically just makes everything blue and the kind of night vibe that was happening in the original, as we can see. And then when it comes to camera raw, I can properly do the color grading and everything, as well as I think a gradient map would work nice for this, and put it onto color dodge blend mode and reduce the opacity, and that will bring some blue into the highlights. So we can already see the color is kind of starting to be established here. Now let's go try and sort out this ground somewhat. Alright, so I have now blended the ground and everything together, as well as putting some blur on it. It does not look too bad at all. I think the blur definitely made a difference, as well as the atmospheric haze that I put in. So as you can see, here is before and here is after. So there's a lot more things going on within this background. I don't even know if I like this sky as much as I like the one from the original, but I'm hoping that with the correct lighting and the correct shadows and everything else, that my decision to change the lighting source will be justified. At least I'm hoping. But yeah, not a bad difference for 5 years apart so far. Now the main thing to do is just all of the blending and render work on Mahrez. So in the original, there is a lot of brightness on him. He should not really be this bright considering all of the light is coming from behind him, but that's because on mobile lighting is not really possible, especially colored lighting, which I did do on, and I was kind of happy with it, to be honest, at the time, but still nowhere near as good as it could be on Photoshop. So that's the main improvement that we're going to be doing today, and that is with the blending of Mahrez himself into this background in terms of colors and lighting and shadows. First, we're going to put a camera raw filter on him and we're going to retouch him, and then we are going to go and do all of the lighting stuff. Alright, so all I've done to this edit now is I've literally just gone in and retouched Mahrez. So here is a quick before and a quick after. Already, compared to this, Mahrez just looks so much better because of that retouching that we've done beforehand, not even putting any lighting into the equation. And that's, for me, one of the main reasons why I like retouching. It just adds a little bit of something extra to a player image that already looks kind of bland. As always, the retouching was done with 2 curves layers, one on multiply and one on screen for the shadows and highlights respectively. And we're going to use an exposure layer to darken Mahrez to the kind of mid-tones, so how dark he should be overall, and then another exposure layer, which is where we're going to add the shadows. So this one's going to have to be a lot darker. Then a little color balance layer, and I'm going to up the blues and cyans on mostly every category until it looks a bit better in comparison to the background. Also, one important thing to keep in mind when doing a grey sort of sky like this, a stormy sky, before the color balance layer, you will want to get a color and vibrance layer, and you'll want to just decrease the vibrance and also mainly the saturation as well, just because everything is very, very grey. So we don't want Mahrez's orange skin to kind of be jumping out at you from the image. And this is the exact method that I used on my mobile days when I had a grey stormy sky. I would literally just go in and decrease the saturation of the player image. That would basically be all the blending that I would do, and it still ends up looking fairly cohesive. Obviously not as cohesive as I can now make it on Photoshop, but still a lot more convincing than it would be without it. So very quickly, here is before any sort of color matching, and here is after. It's already on its way to blending a lot more. I don't usually do this, but I can even throw in the same color lookup that I had on before. So now I'm going to go and do all of the necessary shadows that I need, keeping in mind that the new light source is going to be here. So the whole left side of him here will have shadows casted on them, and vice versa, the lighting and vice versa, the highlights are going to be on the right side of Mahrez because of the light source. And the floor shadows on the ground are also going to be pushed out this way because the light source is here, so it will therefore be the opposite of where the light is coming from. This is for me the most fun process of the entire edit, and I think this is the thing that takes an edit from oh, this is just another edit, to, wow, this is a really good design. So let's go ahead and start on that. So as you can see, that is pretty much the highlights done. Here is without any highlights and here is with them. As you can see, we've really taken on the new light source and made sure that all the lighting is of course going to the side, but then in any places that it could also hit, like the back of the leg here, it's also been hit. It's like we took this original one and clicked HDR. The realism has definitely been upped on this one so far. The lighting is a lot more accurate. Well, there wasn't really lighting in this one, but the lighting and shadows are a lot more accurate. The ground is a lot nicer. These cutouts are just horrifying, but everything blends really well into each other. Now this is very close to being done. I think a few other atmospheric things kind of need to be done. So for example, I need to darken the ground a little bit, create a little bit of a shadow here, and maybe accentuate the light source just a bit. A few glows here and there, because Neil Visual's tradition is to add glows. So this is the final edit. After doing the highlights, there's only a few things that I've really done. I really just darkened the bottom here and I darkened this side a little bit using an exposure adjustment layer and a dark blue color fill layer set to hard light, which adds a bit of blue to the shadows while also making it darker at the same time. And just accentuated where the light source is coming from with a layer of color fill set to the linear dodge add blend mode, and just painting over that with a soft round brush, as well as some color lookups and a camera raw filter and a bit of blur towards the bottom. As you can see, there you go, here's without the blur, and that's with the blur, as well as some outer glow around the brighter edges of Mahrez, like here on the sides of his shirt, his face, the sides of his shorts, just to make it look like that light is really bouncing off him and give the kind of similar very glowy vibes that we had in the original. But yeah, even if you just compare before and after, it's such a huge difference. It just looks so much more realistic. The shadows are a lot better, the highlights are a lot better, there's a lot more depth in the background, and even the text, I've made it a lot smaller, which makes it look a lot more refined. Of course, here it is without the text, just standalone. And that's exactly the reason why I wanted to keep the player image in the exact same place and use the same similar kind of sky and mountains to be able to show that execution in terms of shadows, highlights, blending, those core parts of photo manipulation is what can take an edit from this to this. Obviously this is 5 years worth of design experience compared but it just gives you an idea and shows that you can improve a lot in just those fundamentals and how much of a difference it can make. So for those of you looking to make edits like these with these kinds of backgrounds, those are the things that I would prioritize learning and mastering, and it will for sure help your sports designs and other photo manipulations look so much more realistic. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know. If you enjoyed this series, let me know. If you want to see any more edit revamps like this, I have plenty of edits from my mobile days that I would love to recreate, and even some from my earlier Photoshop journey. Like, subscribe, all of that, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, that's all the time I've got.